See somebody on. Hey! I haven't seen your face. I miss you. Hey, Mama. Hey. I'm just going to give it a few minutes. I notified some people that I was live, so I'm just going to give it a few minutes to make sure. Okay. Well, I am super excited about this topic because it's not one that I thought that I was going to talk about, or ever really, I guess, would have thought that people had interest in. But, you know, I, as a facilitator and kind of stepping into my gifts, I speak to anything that can communicate, but more so, you know, I communicate with the elements. So whether it's okay, Mom. My mom is going to be interacting as Red Feather Healing today. So, where was it? Sorry, I'm laughing at you, Mom. So, because I can communicate with elements, oftentimes a lot of people will associate that with animals, perhaps, a lot of shamanism, right? And so I really was like, well, how can that change? Because really I communicate with more than that, because everything is a vibration, right? And because it can vibrate, we can communicate with it. And so I wanted to talk about the way I can communicate with plants and trees and rocks, which is why I incorporate the crystal healing into my practice, because oftentimes while I'm journeying to speak to your guides or communicating with my guides, crystals will appear, and that's what they need for healing, or certain herbs will come and, well, this is what they need to cleanse with. And so I really thought, how do we incorporate this? How do we let everyone know that these herbs and trees and plants that are so sacred are wanting, you know, to be used? So I thought, well, let's kind of talk about some fun ways to pair these herbs together, and not just the typical sage format that some people associate with the cleansing or the smudging. So we kind of talked and meditated on it. And so I'm super excited about this. And, you know, I guess the bottom line when we think about smudging or cleansing, I guess let's go back, right? Because maybe some people don't even know what smudging is. So let's go back. What is smudging? You may have heard some people refer to it as saging, but saging is actually the plant. Smudging is the act of what we're cleansing. So when you hear people talk about smudging, know that it is that act of using the sage, but it can incorporate many more plants. And in fact, throughout history, you'll find that far more plants were used than sage. You know, it's an ancient practice. It's been known to clear low vibration or what we would associate with negative vibrations. And our ancestors, no matter what culture we are in, our ancestors believed that that sacred smoke, the smoke from that burning plant, it would raise our vibrations. It would clear away that heavy negative vibes and leave you with these high light vibes. And so by us doing that now, continuing that process, not only is it so powerful in cleansing spaces, cleansing people, cleansing our own bodies actually physically, but it also helps to connect us to our ancestral lineage in such a powerful way, because we are doing the same things that they're doing, and it's paying honor to that lineage, and it's connecting in so much power. So when you think about smudging or cleansing, oftentimes people think, well, I'm just doing it to clear the negative energy, right? Clearing the bad juju out from my home. But really, it's the intention that you set for that herb. And so when I talk about certain herbs here in a little bit, I want to make sure that you understand that, you know, if you're going to use the white sage, that the intention is that you clear the negative energy or clear those low vibrations in order to make the room lighter or add joy. So the vibration, or excuse me, so the intention needs to match what the herb's power and background is, okay? And there's so many different herbs that you know, we're going to get into. I didn't pick all of them, obviously. I know I can talk, and I know you guys love to listen to me, but I just picked a few, and we're going to get into those in a few minutes. But talking with the plants and the herbs before we started, asking, okay, so what is it that's probably the most important for everyone to know? I think by far, when you are looking at this sacred art of smudging, whether it's to clear negative energy, whether it is to communicate with ancestors, it's always best to grow our plants and products for ourselves, because when we grow them, we have the ability to cultivate and put that energy into it. So if you don't have the ability to grow these type of plants that we're going to discuss, go to nature and adopt them, okay? You know, go out there, water them. When you bring them food, clean the trash from around them. You know, this is your way of saying, thank you for allowing me to use this in my life and use this to connect, and here's my offering to you. Allow me to repay you by feeding you and cleaning you, just like we do our children, right? So that's what these herbs are asking. Come and use us in nature and get out and feel this power that we bring. When you do so, it's important that you remember we're not going to take more than 10% of that plant, okay? Because that plant still needs to survive, it still needs to produce, and so we don't take more than we can use, okay? So we're not going to take more than 10% of any plant. Ask that plant's permission. Just because you're out there watering it, feeding it, talking to it, just like we, say to our house plants, doesn't mean that you have its permission to cut it and burn it. Okay, it's still energy. We still want that high vibration. So we're going to ask it. We're going to communicate with it. Okay, so that's what I think the most important thing is for us to do. When we buy these sage bundles on the market, or when we are buying these mass-produced, sage and the burning of the sage has become such a big market. And so oftentimes we see these commercial farmers that are using insecticides and pesticides and almost ruining the earth to produce this wonderful plant that is supposed to help us. But in turn, we're killing the earth and putting insecticides and pesticides on something that we would then light and inhale. So that's why it's so important, if you can grow your own, to grow your own. If you can't, we're going to go to nature. If you have a farmer's market and you can learn from the farmers about how it is they grow their products, what they use, perfect, okay? But just understand that it's super important for you to have that connection with that plant. And when we start talking about, okay, what's the best to burn? Is it just sage? Is it rosemary? Is it palo santo? What is the best to burn? There is no such best plant or best combination. Really it's going to be, what do you feel like you need? If you feel like you have a lot of dense energy, it's negative, it's really heavy in here, intuitively, you know what you need. We're all born with this information, so use that, okay? Aside from that, connect with your own heritage. And oftentimes, the plants that were in that local area, you not only connect with the plant, but if your ancestors used to grow that, that is also a way for you to connect to your lineage and heritage and invite them in order to celebrate in the happiness and the lightness and the joy that you're bringing in. So it's super super good that you understand, number one, like we said, setting the intentions. Make sure that the intention that you want matches the herb's power. Make sure that you're getting that from your own source or from nature, and that we're giving that a repayment, paying honor, not taking more than we need, and that 10%. So let's talk some herbs. Probably the most popular, what we would consider base herb when you're smudging, is sage. This is, not only European countries or Asian countries, North America. In North America, we typically have the white sage, but it is the most common, probably energy clearing herb that we have today. So, a funny thing about sage, this white sage, you can actually make a tea out of it. And studies have shown, I was reading, I don't even remember where I was reading this today, but if you drink 5 cups of sage tea a day, it will actually completely eliminate body odor. That's how much cleansing power this plant has in it. I don't know anybody that would want to drink 5 cups of this a day, but if they have really bad body odor, you just keep giving them tea. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so we're going to start with this white sage as our base because, like I said, it is one of the most powerful cleansing agents that we have. It's super, super popular throughout time. It's been proven. So we would start with that as a base, to clear away any negative energy, to those low vibrations, clean it up. After that, or probably I wouldn't say after that, but something that's super nice to use after that, cleansing, something that's a little lighter on the joyer side, is sweetgrass. And this is actually a really big bundle of sweetgrass, and it is mixed with sage, which is why you see it's so big. But sweetgrass is often referred to as holy grass, and it is not only in the Native American culture, but it is extensively used in Europe and the European cultures. You know, mostly what this is used for is attracting the good. It's used for positive energy. It's also used for connecting to ancestors. And a lot of times in the Native American culture, they will burn this at certain ceremonies, inviting in the ancestors. And same goes for European cultures. But most of the time when you're going to burn sweetgrass, it is to bring in the positive energy. Okay, so my favorite, probably herb of, well, all time, but also to burn, and I only pulled a little sprig of it because I don't have any that's dried yet, but that's rosemary, and it just smells so wonderful. So just like both sweetgrass and sage, rosemary has phenomenal antibacterial, antiviral, properties. So if you think about a lot of poultry seasoning, it has rosemary in it. And that is because of the antibacterial properties in rosemary. So if chicken isn't cooked properly, the rosemary will actually help to lower that bacteria to keep us from getting sick. So this plant was used as seasoning long before Mrs. Dash, or what, I don't even know what it is on the market. We pull ours and use it. But so aside from those, you know, burning it when you're sick is probably what it was used for most commonly in past times or ancient times. So in rooms where there was a lot of sickness or plague, they would burn the rosemary because that smoke filling the lungs would help carry that antibacterial and antiviral. But when we think of like cleansing properties of this herb, we think of this as like our fresh start herb. So if we are pairing it with the sage, you would have a bundle of both of them. The sage is what is going to clear out the negativity, and then the rosemary in turn would be like this freshness that would come in and be your new beginning to it. So that's rosemary, my favorite. And next we have mugwort, which sounds like something that should be in Harry Potter, but it is totally legit. So some people, smoke bothers. So there are some of these herbs that you can drink in tea. You know, I mentioned the sage. Mugwort is definitely one because mugwort is extremely good for sleeping. So a lot of times people will burn, this is mugwort. They will burn this before they go to bed at night to help them sleep. So if that smoke does bother you, definitely you can drink this in a tea form as well. This is super, super common in British and Irish cultures, still extensively used today, and in their traditions of clearing. But really, like I said, it's one for sleeping. So overcoming sleeping problems. It's also night terrors, when children have night terrors, because it has this really sedative feature to it. A lot of times in the shamanic culture, we will use mugwort and other herbs to help individuals overcome traumas, because it allows you to calm and relax, so that we are able to go in and retrieve past souls or spirit guides, or whatever it may be. So mugwort is definitely one that is used in the shamanic practice, but can be used to help those that have traumatic experiences overcome them. So let's talk about this little guy next. He's actually already paired, because I'm getting these all over. We have him ready for the show this weekend. And this is juniper, which is here, and white sage, one that we've wrapped and bundled. And so we already talked about the white sage, right? But juniper is kind of that energetic energy that you're bringing in. So with, the sweetgrass, we talked about bringing in that high vibrational energy and ancestral energy. With rosemary, we were talking about a new beginning, fresh start. But with juniper, it is like high vibration, super excited, super energetic. So if you're feeling unmotivated, if you're feeling kind of dull or depleted, people will burn juniper, because it just gives you this energetic creativity burst. And so super positive herb mixed with the sage, it's going to clear away those negative or low vibrations, and then allow the high vibrations to really rise up and be powerful. So super good combination of herb. Like I said, we already had it wrapped up because he's ready for the show on Sunday. So those of you that are in the local San Antonio area, you can come see us at the Hilton Garden Inn on Pat Booker. And let's see, what do we talk about? Let's talk about this little guy. So most of you probably may not know what this is, but when you rub it and smell it, lavender. So lavender is this invigorating scent, and oftentimes in an essential oil purpose is really thought of still having this kind of sedative property, right? But again, lavender is going to bring in these good spirits. Okay, so story about lavender. It is said that lavender's properties are so powerful that baby Jesus's clothes were actually draped over the lavender bush to soak up its scent before he wore it. Lavender is still extremely popular in the Christian culture today because it is a scent that's viewed as warding off evil. So these herbs and plants aren't for pagans or witchcraft or doing any of that. These are still herbs that are, no matter what your religion, no matter what your background, herbs that you can bring in and use in your everyday life. Okay, so don't think of this as witchcraft, because if baby Jesus can use it, we can use it too. Okay. But lavender, super good, like I said, for bringing in the good spirits. Okay, so same thing kind of as along the lines of that sweetgrass. The only difference is with the sweetgrass or the holy grass, it's almost bringing in the ancestral good spirits, whereas the lavender is really more of just all around good spirits. We want good vibes, calling them in, okay? Oh shoot. So the last one I have two, but I don't have any cedar with me right now. But cedar, when we pair it with sage, cedar is extremely old, very wise plant, and we use this as our medicine of protection. So cedar really, cedar is there to help protect us in creating that barrier. So once we cleanse with the sage, that cedar comes behind and now creates this barrier so that no negative or low vibrations can then come in after. So that cedar, strong medicine of protection. Also, we can use the cedar around certain objects. So when we inherit some things, or flea markets or antiques, cedar is a fabulous herb to cleanse that object with, because it's going to remove any unwanted influence, any unwanted affirmations, or what can I not think? I can't think of the word today, but it's going to clear any of those intentions. Thank you. Intentions or influences that somebody else has put on it. So cedar is extremely good for that. So that brings me to the last one that I want to talk about, which is Palo Santo. So this is from a very, very sacred tree that comes from Peru. This is beautifully smelling, super, super powerful as far as cleansing agents go. Because it's such a sacred herb and has been used for so long, be very careful where you acquire your Palo Santo from, because a lot of people will try to sell you things that are not Palo Santo, because this only comes from Peru. Just make sure that, obviously, you can't just go in nature and get this. So make sure that it's a reputable source that's being done ethically when you're retrieving it. Okay, so, oh my gosh, so excited. We've talked about a lot of great ways to pair some herbs together. We talked about 5 or so herbs. Now there's plenty of different kinds of sage, plenty of variants within the juniper and cedar and families. Again, use what calls you, right? Make sure that the intention that you have is what matches with the herb. So if I was calling in or having this intention of, I feel really down and drab and I just can't seem to get anything done, and I'm going to go burn Palo Santo, while it is going to cleanse the energy, it's not going to be something that raises the vibration and brings in the high intense energy that we need. So just ensure that you are doing your research. And again, if you want to connect with that ancestral lineage behind that, looking up certain herbs that came from where your ancestors would have come from, and how they used them, is a very good way to not only use the healing property of the herbs, but to also connect that to our lineage. So, man, we covered a lot. So does anybody have any questions or maybe things over specific herbs? I'm going to scroll up in the comments just to make sure that I didn't miss anything while I was chatting away. Okay. So it's very hard to grow the white sage is all I know. I think it really depends on the area that you're in as well, because there are different families of sage. There's pineapple sage, mountain sage, garden sage, white sage. I mean, there's not necessarily a type of sage that is better than the other. It's the sage that has the cleansing properties in it. So just be aware of that. And if you're finding that in your garden, white sage really isn't doing it, maybe try just this typical garden sage or pineapple sage. It's a kind of experiment with that. Okay. So Joanne says, I was told to leave a cedar plank by the front door to make a protective barrier of energy coming into the home. Yeah, I can see that for sure. I think that cedar is actually really good. I actually have rosemary by my door, so that if anyone comes to my front door, when I open it, the door pushes out, so the individual actually has to step over and they would brush up against my rosemary. So, the saying goes, rosemary by your garden gate, right? Well, they did that because it was almost as if it was this blessing or cleansing of the person. So I keep rosemary by my front door. Cedar would obviously be another good one. I do have stones by my front door as well, but as far as natural elements, herbs, and plants and trees go, I can't disagree with that at all. Can you use any kind of sage to burn? Are you asking in like the family sense of the sage, or like store-bought sage versus sage from the wild? Mama, if you're still on. I will also tell you, if you are growing your own plants, which is highly encouraged, it's about a 10 to 14 day drying out period before you can actually burn that plant. So make sure that you keep in mind that they're not going to burn properly if you pull it from the plant and try to burn it that day. There is about a 10 to 14 day waiting period for it to dry out. Does it have to be white sage? No, not at all. So sage is sage, and while the most, I would say, common type of sage here in North America is the white sage, there is no plant or type that is better than the other. And that's one thing that they want to make very clear, which is why they keep emphasizing this, your intuition. If it feels right to you initially, then that's the plant that you go with, so long as you make the intention match what the herb needs. So in the sage family, we have, there's so many sage. There's probably sages that I don't even know about. So it's that property within the family that we're looking for. And sage is the ultimate cleanser. So like I said, just making sure that it's that. If the white sage doesn't grow in your garden because maybe the climate that you live in, try a different kind of sage. Pineapple sage tends to be fairly good growing. I've heard it's a lot better at growing in some climates, especially very hot climates. So perhaps that's one. I know that the garden sage doesn't quite have the potent smell that you would get from white sage, but still in the sage family, if that makes sense. So absolutely. Joanne says, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. So I do want to mention that while making sure there's no more questions, I'm kind of scrolling through, We do have a couple more of those spots to grant the 15% off. So what it is if you book a journey with me, that's the $132 journey where we do the journey, the healing, and then we present an offering to you based on your guide's recommendation, infuse it with the healing powers, and then it goes to you. Once you do that, then you would get 15% off at our sister site at Burgundy Wishes. We do have a couple spots left, so don't delay. We're running that special until the 6th, and we were only going to do that for 5 people, so make sure you jump on that. Also coming up, we do have a moon talk, and I'm so excited because we have been working on a 28-day workshop. I can't give you everything, but we're working on this workshop. It's going to be phenomenal about harnessing and really pulling the power of the moon when using the cycles. It's going to be awesome. Okay, that's it. I'm done. Okay, talking. Okay, so I don't want to give you too much. Do we have any more questions? I see. I have a lot of chocolate mint. Can you burn that for anything? So with the chocolate mint, I will tell you to be very careful around animals. Because of that coca sensitivity, while they're not physically ingesting we want to stay away from those fumes as well. So mint is going to be obviously in the invigorating family. Mint is going to be along those lines of kind of the junipers, right? So these big, powerful scents that are going to raise up those vibrations once we clear the negative energy. So if you have, regular mint, or if you're burning chocolate mint, like I said, around animals, that wouldn't be one that I recommend, but definitely for sure, if you don't have animals around and it's something that you're looking, perhaps maybe you have a tree allergy or a pine allergy or something, you can swap mint out for the juniper. Is it designed for just inside use, or can it be outdoors as well? Oh, absolutely. Some of these herbs, specifically rosemary, sweetgrass, those are used in ceremonial fires. You have to remember, while we're talking about, kind of those cleansing pairings, when we talk about smudging, outside in these ceremonies is a huge use for these herbs. You talk about connecting with ancestors, and you talk about bringing in good spirits and high vibes. That's in a ceremonial setting. That's in a setting where you're joining with people to raise vibration. So absolutely, can you burn these outside? Yes. A lot of times in my practice, when we're working with more of the shamanic elements, we will go to nature. And you'll find, I think, in this workshop, when we start doing certain rituals, or when we start doing meditations that are going to go along with these moon cycles, we will be in nature for these, because the power that comes from Mother Earth while burning these elements is unlike anything you've done. Or if you're cleansing and you step outside afterwards and put your bare feet on the ground, you're going to get that same essence of energy and feeling. So absolutely, you can use them either way, indoors or outdoors. Do we have any other questions? If you guys are catching the replay, please hashtag replay, so that way if there is any questions, I can come back in and answer them later. Next week I will be on vacation, so there will be no Talks with Tabatha next week. I know you guys are sad, but the following week we're going to be talking about the moon. We're going to be talking about harnessing the power, which is going to be fantastic because it's going to lead you into that workshop. I know I won't talk about it, but stay tuned because it's going to be awesome. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I had so much fun prepping and putting this together for you guys, and I love going out and spending time in nature. So please let me know if you have any questions. And again, we have a few slots available. So for those of you that are looking to take advantage of that journey with me and receive that 15% off at our sister site, Burgundy Wishes, please go to the Red Feather Healing and you can book with me right there. Okay, other than that, I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Have a good night. Bye.